Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This is the Zoom in with Daniel Root for October, I believe, the 15th. Yes. So we are about to get started here, and I did want to do a presentation. I'm going to give a short introduction to a video that I'm about to release on Thursdays. So it's not yet available to the public, but I'm going to show you what it's about. So some of you have probably heard that we now have the Detoxination Retreat with Daniel Root up and running. And this is actually the title screen from the video where you see me actually unboxing and assembling the Sun Stream Mini EHS sauna. So this sauna is actually one that is improved, and I use the word evolved, the evolved Sun Stream in play on words with the fact that the actual sauna line is evolved. This will probably not be on the final product, but I just thought that the evolved Sun Stream Mini EHS was a great way to describe the advancements to it. There are at least 4 things that have been improved upon, and that video will be describing them. The Sun Stream Mini comes in a very small palletized size. Actually, it is pretty manageable by 1 or 2 people. Now, when you're assembling this, it's always a good idea to have 2 people involved with the assembly of any sauna. But I have done the Sun Stream Mini so many times. I've owned several of them. And I used one for the COVID lockdown period where I would actually assemble and disassemble it to take it to people's homes so that I could then remote coach them. So here you see that the palletized version of the Evolve Mini comes in that small size, and I actually do have a couple of pictures of how to unpalletize it, but the ones I wanted to show you is here. I've moved the sauna up to the apartment front, porch area. And then I staged it after I unboxed everything. So these are all the parts staged for me to then assemble inside. And here you get to see what the connections look like, and the fact that this they've had the heated floor. However, they've not had this, it's a stainless steel drip pan that is going to help to keep the water from, let's say, your feet or what have you, your sweat, from actually going through the bottom and maybe even damaging the floor. So this is an upgrade to the original Sun Stream Mini. That's one of several. Here is what the actual final product looked like, and you are seeing the Detoxination Retreat with Daniel Root apartment. So this is how it is set up. And so I have the exercycle, I have a chi machine over there, and we essentially, I come over to the apartment and work with my clients for 2 to 3 hours to put them through a daily session, and then they go about the rest of their day. So that's what the interior looks like from that angle. Anyway, that is the slides from those are the slides from the video. And I'll be posting that, like I said, on Thursday. So watch for that. So let's go ahead and stop the screen share. And looks like we've got some more people who've joined us. Hey, Ken. And who else is that? Paul, I see, has joined us. So I think some of you came in the middle of that. I was just describing the video that shows the unboxing and the setup of the new Sun Stream Mini at the apartment. So that was part of my overall goal, was to get the apartment set up, but also be able to shoot the video and offer it to Sunstream as a way of helping to promote the sauna. It's a beautiful sauna. I love those little guys. Anyway, so again, welcome everybody. And shall we go ahead and just have you unmute and throw out your questions? I don't think the hand raising thing works very well, but let's go ahead and see if we can get somebody to start the night off.
Okay, I'll start. Are there the saunas that you recommend? Does some heat up faster than others?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there are some benefits to a smaller sauna like that Sunstream. That one heats up rapidly. In fact, I was actually rather blown away by the fact that I normally start preheating a sauna when a person is doing their exercise. So once they start the exercise, that gives me at least 30 minutes, well, actually at least 20 minutes to get the sauna preheated. But that one preheats in about 15 minutes to the point where it's very much usable. There are other saunas, I would say like the Radiant Health sauna that I recommend, that has the larger panels, and therefore there's more surface area for heating up the sauna. But keep in mind too, though, that we are not dealing with convection saunas here. So the emitters are the more important aspect of these. So just the fact that they heat up is a nice thing because we expect a sauna to be hot, but they really do not need the air to get hot first to then do conduction into the body. So, but I do like to get the sauna preheated anyway. But anyway, those two are the ones that I find are the fastest to heat up.
It's interesting you said because my Sanctuary one, it takes about an hour to get to about 140, 145. So it just seems a bit slow.
Okay, you've just described the one sauna that does have that known issue, and that is because Clearlight attempted to provide a full spectrum sauna that could plug into a standard outlet. And just by the way, so you know, that Sun Stream Mini I just showed you pictures of, that easily plugs into a standard 110 outlet at 15 amps. So the one thing about the full spectrum Sanctuary One is that it really is ultimately underpowered because it has to be able to plug into a 110 at 15 amps. So that is the one sauna that does take the longest. Now there are some biohacks, well, I guess they're not bio, but they're sauna hacks that you can find out more about. There's several places online, YouTube videos and things like that, where you can look up how to make your sauna heat up faster. But be advised that some of those are able to actually void warranties. So you want to be careful with some of those.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Did I see that Paul had a question?
I do too.
Oh, you can go, Melinda.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Hey Dan, hey everybody.
there.
Yes, it's several questions. One is I'm starting on Sunday, so I'm starting my tapering up to taking niacin. I started yesterday and took 100 milligrams, and nothing happened. No flush whatsoever. Interesting. So I did 200 today, and it took about 2 hours until I did get a flush, and it lasted about 10 minutes, and it was exceptionally non-eventful. I would say nobody would even particularly notice that. Usually, like, I've done this a year ago, so I am familiar with what the niacin does. So I've looked, it is the same 100 tablets niacin, and it is the right type of niacin that I had last year. Literally just this morning, my new batch has arrived, but they're in date. They're not, the use by date is not until 2025. Just curious of any thoughts, Dan. Is that I'm just finding that unusual compared to previous experience taking that expect a flush in the beginning.
Yeah, did you have food in your stomach when you took the niacin?
No, I didn't.
Interesting.
Yesterday morning, sorry, and just what I thought might have caused it yesterday morning was at 5 a.m. and this is what I typically take first thing in the morning, is I take a series of I call proteolytic enzymes, as in your serrapeptase, nattokinase, and lumbokinase. And then it was an hour after that I took the niacin. I thought, oh, maybe the fact that the enzymes are in my stomach may have done something. So this morning it was first cab off the rank. That was the only thing. Yeah, certainly food in your stomach, I know could certainly halt and die down the reaction, but no, not at all.
The other thing too, that if you're looking to get a flush, because if you're doing the niacin flush sauna detox version, or even the ramp up to the full program, where you're doing like the 5-day ramp up, and you really want to get a flush, the best way to get a flush is to drink something hot like tea or coffee. And any hot liquids are known to be able to actually intensify or make more intense the flush. So that's something you can do to increase it. But for the most part, the flush was so unpredictable. It's always been. And it really has no value to us after a certain point on our protocol. So the flush and the rebound lipolysis have the only thing they have in common is the fact that they're both triggered by niacin, but the flush really is not important to us unless you're trying to do the flush sauna detox. So is that what you're doing?
No, I'm doing the whole boots in 30-day detoxination. Yeah,
If you're not worried about the flush, starting up to jump in a sauna while flushing, because that is something we do recommend in the first 5 days or so. If you're not worried so much about that, then I wouldn't be worried at all about the niacin not actually inducing one. It's like I said, too unpredictable. There's so many variables. Your body's tolerance to it may be still strong, and it also could be that you need the niacin. Your body may just actually be needing more. So as you increase the niacin up to a certain point, I'm sure you'll see a couple of flushes throughout the next few days. But because of the depletion of the prostaglandin PGD2 hormones that actually cause a flush, they're going to be depleted and not regenerate fast enough when you're taking niacin daily at ever increasing doses. So it was nice when it happened, but well, some people don't think so, but it was nice when it happened, but I wouldn't worry about it that you're not getting one.
Okay, cool. The only other thing that I did start in the last couple of days was upping, well, iodine, because I have learned in this group that yeah, by increasing your iodine, you help with the sweating. I thought, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So whether that could have impacted the flush, but as long as you're not worried, it said it was just different than what I experienced last year, and I was a tad concerned.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the flush has no real impact on the overall success of the protocol, but and I don't believe the iodine really had much of an effect for the lack of flush. And by the way, the purpose for the iodine really is more for people who have what's called hypohidrosis, so they don't sweat as much. And the iodine is going to help improve the thyroid's ability to actually regulate the body temperature, and that's what that does. So if you're taking iodine, but you've been able to sweat in a sauna just fine normally, you probably really don't need to take the additional iodine. But I do always recommend that people have their iodine levels tested so that you do know, because you can really, I think, go overboard with it. And if you're actually suffering from hypohidrosis and you needed to do an iodine therapy, it can actually take 4 to 6 weeks for that therapy to actually start the flushing process. So just be aware that that's for people who really are having a hard time. Now, I can tell you one thing that we've learned throughout the years, and that is that if you take a cold shower in between the 2 sauna cycles in an infrared version, the second sauna cycle is going to probably make you sweat more profusely. And I used to think it was a heat shock protein kind of effect, but the more I delve into it, and I'm still not completely, I would say, fully knowledgeable on it, but what it looks like is going on is that when you take a cold shower after being in a hot sauna, there is this contrast therapy going on, but you're closing up the pores, trapping the heat, and then the body is going to be able to then start to sweat better once you get back into the sauna. And there's a missing piece there that I'm still trying to figure out, but it is something that is been well documented, if you will, that the sweat in the second sauna cycle after a cold shower tends to be more profuse. So a little hint
Yeah, I
there.
plan to implement that in this session. One last question was just in, and it's down the track, but I might as well ask since I'm here, is the niacin dose tapering off at the other end? It's 3 days prior, starting tapering 3 days prior to the finish. And do you taper down by the amount that you've been increasing or in bigger? I have a feeling, sorry, I live near an airport and the plane's just going overhead.
We can't hear it.
Or do you taper down in larger doses?
So it is perfectly okay to taper down in larger doses. So let's say you got up to 3,100 milligrams. If you wanted to cut down, maybe 800 milligrams at a time each day over the next 3 days, that's fine. I typically just reduce 25% from the 3,100. I think it works out to 2,300. And then the next day is 1,600. That's 50%. And then 800. So that's the tapering down that I'm used to doing for people who work up to 3,100 milligrams. Now, if you're increasing your dose by 200 milligrams a day because you weighed over 200 pounds, that would change. But just be aware that the tapering down can be done any way you want. You can do 500 milligrams a day or 1,000 milligrams a day, reducing the niacin dose. But it's all about not wanting to trigger a new rebound. And your body's built up a tolerance to that niacin dose, and so we want to come down gradually so that the body is, more. Let's just say it's more graceful. You could literally stop taking niacin cold turkey, but I just feel like it's a better thing to do because the body's built up such a tolerance. But the other thing too is that we know there's about a 72-hour window, and toxins get liberated from fat. They're going to need somewhere between 0 and 72 hours to get out of the body. And one way or another, that could be the sweat from the sebaceous sweat, or it could be the binders picking them up in the GI tract, or they get redistributed. So the last 3 days is all about really coming off niacin gracefully and not triggering a new rebound, so that the body no longer has to deal with new toxins being liberated at these higher levels. So that's the purpose for it, and you can do it any way you want.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions?
Hi, Dan.
Hi there.
I had to answer a phone call, so hopefully I don't repeat anything, but I during that California heat wave down there in Southern California, I did about 2 weeks, kind of like trying to, prep, get ready, because I wanted to go, do the program, but I wasn't feeling that great. So I kind of aborted. But I was having like a lot of well, even before the sauna, like with brain, almost like I think histamine, maybe kind of leaky gut stuff going on.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure if I was getting like redistribution. But one of the questions was that, do some people go straight in, like if they're doing okay, and after 2 weeks, can they just, start the counter when they hit 500, or is that too long of a?
No, I encourage people to work up to it if they feel like their body is not capable of starting off, full bore onto a program like ours. In fact, people with adrenal fatigue, for example, or maybe MTHFR gene polymorphisms, they may want to, ramp up slower. And this is where actually the niacin flush sauna detox version is very helpful, because it will allow you to get acclimated to the whole sauna and niacin flush. So it is a minimalistic version of the protocol. In fact, I've made posts to the Facebook group that point out the fact that sauna detoxification using niacin is actually a broad or general term. Our actual main protocol is detoxination, and that is the 30-day program, and it can be a 21 or 14, but really everybody should start off with the 30-day version. But the niacin flush sauna detox is a separate version that falls under that broad umbrella of sauna detoxification using niacin. The Hubbard method falls under that. The Dr. George Hughes version falls under that. But
Mhm.
in reality, the detoxination program is what we really are promoting as the full protocol. Now, if anybody's interested in learning more about the niacin flush sauna detox, you can find it in the files section of our Facebook group, or if you are a member of our website, it is in the forms and information center. So you register on our website, and that's how you can get to that. I can probably make it available if people request, but it's a case of that is essentially designed for firefighters. It was mostly because of the fact
Fine.
that firefighters cannot commit to a 30-day detox program with 2 hours, actual program time, and then timing the niacin ahead of time, and they're on call. They're not going to be able to do that. So this was a better way for them to at least take advantage of the sauna and the flush.
I was trying to see if I could wear out the flush, and I was sitting at 400 maybe for 4 days or something. It went down, but I still had a little bit. But okay, so next time I can still kind of do the same thing, and if
Yep.
just keep going.
Yep.
You said
Absolutely.
you
In
said
fact,
I believe you were saying before that you don't like people going over 30 days, and if they hit that part where they feel good, then that's when you want to start tapering down. Is that correct?
right. Yes. If you're not being physically supervised by us, like at a center, then it is better to stop at 30 days. And the goal there is to allow the body to return to homeostasis, because you're in a heightened state of sympathetic mode during this whole program. So I don't expect people to really be noticing much of any benefit during a 30-day program, because you're basically triggering, or liberating toxins at 3 times normal levels, and you're in heat stress. And some people, exercise is also stressful. And even the anxiety of actually doing a protocol like ours can put you into sympathetic mode. So that's the fight or flight mode, right? With the flight mode. Anyway, so you're in that state for 30 days. Give your body a chance to return to homeostasis. Plus, with a minimum of 2 weeks in between programs, then your body's then not only going to reset the niacin so you can start over at the low doses, but during those 2 weeks, you may actually start to notice any wins, gains, or benefits that you've received from the first 30 days. But for most people, I would say that the first 30-day program is going to be the start, but they'll need to do another 30-day, simply because we know from our studies that the body burden reductions are about 1/3 per 30-day program. And we are being more polluted today than we were back in the 80s and 90s. So we're just more contaminated than ever.
Did you mention before about like one of your really highly successful cases with a lady that was bedridden
Yeah.
and now she dances or something like that?
Yes. In fact, I'm allowed to use her name, and it's one where this is a nurse who received it was 32 gadolinium injections for MRIs, and her body basically had been so poisoned by the gadolinium that she was bedridden and disabled, and it was a case of she just thought her life was over until she found out about her program. However, she had been dabbling in it the first 3 times. So she was essentially doing what I would call the niacin flush sauna detox, not
Okay.
detoxination. So after she went through this program with me 5 times, she was able to start dancing again. And then she's done it a few more times. She literally told me that she's obsessed with doing it now to keep her body clean.
That's a great story.
It is. Thank you. I
Thank
did
you.
not use her name, but some of you know who she is. But just be aware that this protocol has proven to be the most effective for detoxing gadolinium. And if anybody's interested to learn more about MRIs and contrast dye and how bad gadolinium is, you can always reach out to me at heal.me/detox to set up an appointment.
You think that would be something they would probably have in the medical records? Because I think I mentioned to you before I had a MRI for a kidney stone, and I think they prepped me with a drink. I'm trying to remember.
You sure it wasn't a CT scan? I mean, if it was a drink, well, it could have been gadolite. That's the gadolinium chelated to zeolite, which I wasn't even aware they were using it in this country. But typically when something's administered orally, it's a radioactive iodine or barium, and those are more typical for CT scans.
Yeah, maybe I'll look into that. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, do we have any other questions? Just unmute.
I'll try one again.
Okay.
As we prepare for your program, what temperatures do you like people to be adapted to in the sauna?
That's a great question. It depends on whether or not you're in a dry sauna or a far infrared. And I know you are in a, well, you're in a sanctuary, aren't you?
Yep.
So you've got the full spectrum. So because the infrared saunas aren't reliant on convection and conduction to heat the body, the temperature, I will just always kind of respond this way, is that it's whatever the lowest temperature you can tolerate that still produces a good sebaceous sweat, so that you can stay in the sauna longer. Now, one way to tell if you're making or producing sebaceous sweat is just to dry yourself off with a paper towel. One day grab a paper towel and wipe your arms and your face and everything as you're sweating, and then let that dry overnight. And when you come back, if it's dry, drop a bead of water on it and see if it stays on top for longer than it should if it had been just a straight paper towel. Because if it sits on top for a few seconds, that means that the paper towel had picked up lipids off of your sweat, from your sweat. So that's a great sign that you've produced sebaceous sweat. And it also looks slicker, it feels slicker, it's kind of shinier, but it's the best way to tell. So that's what I would recommend you do. And plus, the fact that these infrared saunas do not require convection and conduction, you can open the door and give yourself a cold blast of air, which will help you to stay in longer. And it will also, it's actually somewhat of a contrast therapy too, but it also will force the emitters to turn back on. And that's when you're actually getting the benefit from a far infrared sauna or full spectrum.
And that's kind of what I was doing when I was following the 30-day program, which is more the flush niacin, as we talked about. But the presentation was that the lower the temperature that you could sweat at, the better. Is that not necessarily the case? As long as you're sweating, is it better to
It's all
120 to
about
140?
it's all about the lower temperatures for longer time. So
So it's
that's
time.
so lower temperature with longer time, and that can be done in a dry sauna too. So it's just a case of we want to make sure that there's not too many, if you will, cool down breaks in between, because if you consider the dry saunas can take maybe 6 sauna cycles to actually produce sebaceous sweat at a consistent level. That's because typically they're running 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and they are so oppressively hot that people can only sit in them for maybe 10 to 15 minutes before, or 15 to 20 maybe, before they have to cool down for 5 to 10 minutes. So the thing is that these repeated cycles of heating and cooling are going to wind up defeating the purpose and not getting the core temperature up to the point where the sebaceous sweat is produced. So, and it was one of the main reasons why we switched to the far infrared. But with the infrared saunas, you can go at a lower temperature and stay in for longer periods of time and get a really good sebaceous sweat because of how the far infrared wavelengths are actually resonating with the water molecules up to 1.5 inches deep into your body. So that's the main reason why infrared is able to do a better job. I've talked about Dr. Dietrich Klinghart's study, or at least the presentation he did on a study he had done internally. But he found that if you compare a 1 hour period of dry sauna versus a 1 hour period of an infrared sauna, that the sweat from the dry sauna in that 1 hour was mostly water. It was 95 to 97, or even 99, I've seen in other studies, percent water, and the remainder are salts. Whereas in a 1 hour period with the infrared sauna, it's 80 to 85% water, and the remainder is everything from cholesterol to sulfuric acid, uric acid, but most importantly, the lipophilic toxicants, including heavy metals and man-made chemicals. So that was what actually convinced us to get away from these dry saunas and use infrared. And it made sense once we also understood that the mechanism of action that is actually responsible for the better detox is rebound lipolysis. And that triggers in the 2 hours that would have been the last 2 hours of the Hubbard method. So the decision was made to just eliminate the first 3 hours, but the person would take the niacin and they'd take it at the call it the 0 hour, and then 2.5 to 3 hours later they would start the exercise and then do the sauna. So it's all about this rebound lipolysis chart that I love to show. So this is basically the setup time for rebound right here. And that's about 2.5 to 3 hours. And then we get this incredible overshoot that's called rebound lipolysis. And that's where the liberation of the toxins are so much higher. It's 3 times normal levels. So.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense. It was interesting, Mike, being a newbie the first time through. I was doing about 90 to 110 minutes, couple breaks to do a rebounder in between. And I started to sweat better as I was doing more of the program. And then towards the end, I needed to raise the temperature to get the same type of sweat. Is that variability something you see, or is it just person to person?
It is person to person, but there are a couple of reasons for that. Initially, some people who've never really gotten into a sauna or have done regular saunas, their sweat glands may not be, operating optimally. They can be even clogged. So they need to basically be shaken out, if you will, through several sauna cycles before you start to really get a good sweat going. Unless you have an actual genetic condition like anhidrosis, which is similar to hypohidrosis. Anhidrosis is basically where you just cannot sweat at all. Nothing you can do about it. Hypohidrosis, that's where iodine can help. But for most people that haven't been doing a whole lot to produce the sweat, it can take a while to get those sweat glands to wake up again and start acting and start working. But if you've been doing a lot of sweating and not really consuming enough fluids, it's possible that you may have issues down the road. So this is one of the main reasons why we are using electrolytes and providing a lot of hydration during a program like ours. So in fact, let me ask you, were you smelling ammonia at any time along the way?
No, I did not. And I was warned to keep a handle on that. So, I mean, I could have been a little less hydrated as we move forward. But I just thought that was interesting. And the other thing with me was that my legs don't sweat as much as the rest of my body. And is that unusual?
Hard to say. We would need to know more about your, health history, which I personally have some of that data since we've talked, but
Yeah.
I don't want to hash that out here on this public forum. But there are conditions that can cause various, issues with sweating like that.
Thank you.
Something of a non-answer there, but it was essentially there's several variables that could be involved with that. Okay, do we have anybody else who would like to chime in? At this point, we'll go ahead and wind up, guys. So thank you again. Yes.
Just one quick question. What were you saying about the ammonia smell? Was that from the pores or from urine or?
So what happens is that if your body is in desperate need of more fluids, the amino acids start to burn quicker, and you get a buildup of what amounts to the ammonia, and it can be also uric acid. But the kidneys need more fluids, and so if somebody is experiencing ammonia smell, we're going to have them actually do another round of electrolytes and fluids.
Okay.
So that round will wind up being the one that is the first one, and it will be done right before exercise. So if you smell ammonia, on a day, you need to drink more stuff, but drink more fluids. But the next day, you're going to want to have electrolytes and fluids before exercise.
Okay. Thank you.
Fun aside, but thank you all for joining me tonight, and I look forward to the next time, and I hope something of value was learned. So take care, everybody.
Cheers. Good
Thanks.
night.
Good night.
Good night.